For decades, Clint Eastwood and Robert Redford have been two of Hollywood's most legendary figures, icons whose careers shaped the golden age of modern cinema. While both actors achieved unparalleled success on their own, fans have long speculated about the relationship between these two titans. Was there rivalry, mutual admiration, or something far more complex behind the camera and off-screen? Now, at the age of 95, Clint Eastwood is finally breaking his silence about Robert Redford, revealing details that no one expected. After years of speculation, unanswered questions, and rumors swirling through Hollywood, Eastwood's candid words have sent shockwaves through the film industry and left fans stunned. What he shared not only sheds light on their professional dynamic, but also offers a glimpse into the personal truths behind two of cinema's most private legends. For Eastwood, speaking about Redford is more than just sharing stories. It's about revealing decades of experiences, lessons, and conflicts that have remained hidden from public view. From collaborations and missed opportunities to behind-the-scenes tensions on iconic films, every revelation adds depth to a relationship that has fascinated generations of moviegoers. This is more than a Hollywood story. It is a human story of ambition, respect, rivalry, and the cost of fame. Eastwood's reflections remind the world that even legends have complex, layered relationships, shaped by both admiration and unspoken tension. And as the world listens, one thing is clear. The story of Clint Eastwood and Robert Redford is finally being told from the perspective that matters most, the man who lived it. Long before Clint Eastwood became a cinematic icon, he was just another aspiring actor navigating the tough, competitive world of Hollywood. Born in 1930 in San Francisco, Eastwood grew up in a middle-class family, far from the glitz and glamour of the film industry. His early years were marked by hard work, determination, and a desire to carve out a space for himself in an unforgiving industry. By the late 1950s, Eastwood had begun landing small roles in television shows like Rawhide, but his true breakout moment was still years away. Around the same time, Robert Redford was also establishing himself as a rising star. Born in 1936, Redford shared a similar trajectory, hard-working, determined, and hungry for recognition. While Eastwood pursued his signature tough guy roles, Redford gravitated toward charismatic, nuanced characters that captured audiences' hearts. Though their paths were initially parallel rather than intersecting, Hollywood insiders already noticed the potential for these two emerging actors to become household names. Their first impressions of each other, according to Eastwood's own recollections, were shaped by mutual awareness and professional curiosity. Eastwood respected Redford's charm and screen presence, acknowledging early on that Redford possessed a rare ability to captivate audiences with subtle emotion and understated intensity. Redford, in turn, recognized Eastwood's raw magnetism, his ability to command attention even with minimal dialogue, a skill that would eventually define his legendary career. However, early admiration was accompanied by a subtle sense of rivalry. Hollywood, always hungry for comparisons and competition, often pitted rising stars against one another, whether in box office performance or critical acclaim. Eastwood later admitted that he was aware of the industry's tendency to measure success in relative terms, and he often found himself reflecting on Redford's career trajectory as both a challenge and a benchmark. While Eastwood never admitted open hostility, there was an undercurrent of competitive tension, one that would quietly influence how he approached his own choices in film and collaboration. The dynamics between them were further complicated by the types of roles they pursued. Eastwood was building a reputation as the rugged anti-hero, eventually becoming synonymous with westerns and gritty, morally complex characters. Redford, by contrast, embodied charm, sophistication, and versatility, often taking on romantic or socially conscious roles that appealed to a different demographic. While the public adored both, their on-screen personas couldn't have been more different, fueling comparisons in Hollywood columns and fan discussions alike. By the late 1960s, both men were firmly on the path to superstardom, and their reputations were well established. Eastwood's rise with Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy cemented his image as the quintessential tough guy, while Redford's breakout performances in films like Butch Cassidy and The Sundance Kid showcased his charisma and ability to carry big-budget productions. Though they did not share many projects during this time, the awareness of each other's accomplishments and strengths began to build a silent, respectful rivalry that would define much of their relationship in later decades. Even at this early stage, Clint Eastwood's reflections reveal a mix of admiration, awareness, and the beginnings of a tension that only deepened with time. While their paths were distinct, the trajectory of their careers set the stage for a complex dynamic that would intrigue Hollywood insiders, fans, and historians for decades to come. As Clint Eastwood's career soared in the 1970s, he began to hear more about Robert Redford, who by then was firmly established as one of Hollywood's most charismatic leading men. While both actors had achieved fame in their own right, their careers rarely intersected directly. Instead, Eastwood's reflections reveal that their relationship was shaped as much by what didn't happen as by the few moments when they did cross paths. Eastwood has often spoken candidly about the early years of Hollywood, describing it as a world driven by opportunity, timing, and sometimes luck. In interviews, he recalls hearing about Redford through mutual acquaintances, directors, and producers. Though Eastwood respected Redford's craft, he also recognized the way Hollywood liked to create comparisons. Magazine headlines would pit the two stars against each other, questioning who was more bankable, more versatile, or more talented. While Eastwood remained focused on his own trajectory, he was not immune to the subtle pressures of being compared to another iconic figure. There were also missed opportunities that could have brought them together sooner. Several projects in the late 1970s and early 1980s were rumored to consider both Eastwood and Redford for the same roles, but scheduling conflicts, creative differences, or studio decisions meant they never shared the screen. One notable example was the film The Sting, which propelled Redford to further stardom. According to Eastwood, he was approached about a potential role in the film, but declined due to other commitments. Looking back, he admitted it was a decision he sometimes wondered about, knowing that the film became a defining moment in Redford's career. Despite the lack of direct collaboration, their professional paths occasionally overlapped at Hollywood events, award shows, and premieres. Eastwood recalls these encounters with a mixture of respect and candid honesty. Redford, he notes, always carried himself with charm and professionalism, embodying a type of Hollywood sophistication that contrasted sharply with Eastwood's more rugged, no-nonsense persona. These moments were brief but meaningful, offering glimpses into the man behind the legend, and planting seeds of both admiration and subtle rivalry. Eastwood also reflected on the indirect influence Redford had on his career. Watching Redford navigate complex roles, handle fame with poise, and maintain a certain mystique off-screen prompted Eastwood to think differently about his own choices. While Eastwood preferred the tough, morally complex characters that would define his legacy, Redford's versatility and appeal reminded him that there was more than one way to leave a lasting mark in Hollywood. By the early 1980s, both men were recognized as legends in their own right. The public saw Eastwood as the ultimate anti-hero and Redford as the charismatic leading man, yet behind the scenes, there was a quiet acknowledgement that each had earned a unique place in cinema history. While opportunities for collaboration had been missed, the mutual respect and occasional silent rivalry set the stage for the stories Eastwood would later reveal at 95, reflecting honestly on his impressions, feelings, and the complicated dynamic that had developed over decades. Even though fans often speculated about tension or competition, Eastwood's reflections suggest something more nuanced: admiration, curiosity, and a recognition of how two very different careers could coexist while shaping Hollywood's landscape in profound ways. By the 1980s and 1990s, both Clint Eastwood and Robert Redford had solidified their positions as Hollywood icons. Eastwood, known for his stoic, gritty characters in westerns and thrillers, commanded the screen with an intense presence, while Redford's charm and nuanced performances drew audiences into more dramatic, romantic, and socially conscious narratives. Though they rarely worked together directly, their careers intersected indirectly through shared directors, producers, and overlapping industry circles. And it was during this period that Eastwood began to reflect more candidly on Redford's approach to filmmaking and the subtle tensions that arose. Eastwood has described moments when he and Redford were attached to similar projects or considered for the same roles. While the industry often framed this as rivalry, Eastwood's recollections reveal a more complex reality. He acknowledges that, at times, there was professional tension, a natural byproduct of two legends competing in a high-stakes, high-visibility environment. Decisions about casting, box office potential, and critical acclaim could create friction even when mutual respect existed. Eastwood notes that he never harbored personal animosity toward Redford. But he also admits that being constantly compared to another actor of Redford's caliber inevitably shaped his choices. One area where Eastwood felt the pressure most acutely was in creative control. Known as a director who values independence and meticulous attention to detail, he often observed Redford navigating similar challenges but in a different style. Eastwood recalls watching Redford balance charm, diplomacy, and strategic negotiation while maintaining artistic integrity. At times, Eastwood admired this approach. At other times, it reminded him that the industry could be unforgiving to those unwilling to conform to studio demands. Their contrasting methods, Eastwood's direct, no-nonsense style versus Redford's calculated diplomacy, occasionally highlighted subtle differences in temperament, approach, and philosophy. Behind the scenes, directors and producers occasionally commented on the Eastwood-Redford dynamic, even when the actors were not directly involved in the same project. These discussions, while largely speculative, underscored the curiosity surrounding how two of Hollywood's biggest stars might interact. Eastwood has stated that he sometimes felt pigeonholed by these comparisons, particularly in interviews and media coverage that framed his career in relation to Redford's rather than on his own merits. Yet he also recognized that the attention was a testament to Redford's influence and the public's fascination with legendary collaborations, or the lack thereof. Even in rare interactions, such as award ceremonies or industry gatherings, Eastwood recalls a mix of camaraderie and professional guardedness. While both men were polite and respectful, there was an unspoken awareness of each other's accomplishments and the pressures of their public images. Eastwood admits that it was impossible to completely escape the shadow of comparison, especially when critics and fans constantly measured one against the other. Yet, in reflecting on these moments at age 95, he emphasizes that any tension was professional rather than personal, an inevitable result of two ambitious, driven men navigating the same industry. Ultimately, these behind-the-scenes dynamics reveal a relationship built on respect, tempered by the realities of Hollywood competition. While Eastwood and Redford rarely shared the screen, their careers intertwined in ways that shaped their choices, challenges, and legacies. Eastwood's reflections show that even icons are human, navigating ambition, rivalry, and admiration while leaving a permanent mark on the world of film. Now, at the remarkable age of 95, Clint Eastwood has finally opened up about Robert Redford in a way that is candid, reflective, and deeply human. After decades in the spotlight, Eastwood's perspective offers a rare glimpse into the life of a Hollywood legend, revealing not just professional insights but also personal feelings that have remained private for years. His reflections are a mix of admiration, honest rivalry, and the acknowledgement of the unique challenges that come with being compared to another giant of the industry. Eastwood begins by acknowledging Redford's undeniable talent. He praises Redford's charm, versatility, and ability to captivate audiences effortlessly. "He had a way of drawing people in," Eastwood admits, "something I could never replicate, and something I respected even when it made me think harder about my own choices." This admiration is balanced with the awareness that Hollywood thrives on comparisons, and being measured against Redford often added pressure, shaping Eastwood's decisions and approach to filmmaking. At the same time, Eastwood reflects on the subtle rivalries that naturally emerge when two ambitious, highly visible actors navigate the same industry. While there were no personal conflicts, there were moments of tension born from professional competition, roles that might have overlapped, awards considered, and public perception constantly measured. Eastwood candidly admits that these tensions were never malicious but inevitable, given the stakes and expectations placed on both men. The rivalry, he notes, was more about legacy and recognition than personal animosity. Beyond professional dynamics, Eastwood touches on how Redford influenced him creatively. Watching Redford balance charm, diplomacy, and strategy inspired Eastwood to think differently about his own approach to directing and producing. He reflects on the importance of independence in filmmaking, a principle both men valued, though expressed differently. Redford's measured, diplomatic style often contrasted with Eastwood's direct, uncompromising approach, yet both proved effective in shaping their respective legacies. Eastwood also speaks candidly about public perception. Over decades, critics and fans alike have speculated about their relationship, fueling myths of rivalry or tension. At 95, he emphasizes that much of the speculation was exaggerated. While the world was fascinated by potential conflicts, Eastwood assures that any tension was professional and rooted in mutual respect. He describes their dynamic as a silent acknowledgement of each other's strengths, a recognition that both had earned their unique places in Hollywood history. Finally, Eastwood reflects on what it means to leave a legacy. He admires Redford not only for his performances but also for his enduring influence on film and culture. Eastwood admits that, despite differences in style and persona, both have contributed to cinema in ways that will outlast them. His words carry a tone of respect, humility, and reflection, a seasoned acknowledgement that life in Hollywood is as much about navigating relationships as it is about talent. In the end, Clint Eastwood's reflections at 95 offer a rare, humanizing perspective on one of Hollywood's most enduring relationships. It is a story of admiration and rivalry, of challenges and triumphs, and of two men whose careers have been intertwined in the public imagination, even if only occasionally intersecting behind the scenes. For fans and film historians alike, Eastwood's candid revelations remind us that even legends are human, shaped by their ambitions, comparisons, and respect for one another, a timeless narrative of legacy, friendship, and the silent bonds that define Hollywood.